Well, good morning, everyone. This is Patrick at Qdabra Software, and very happy to have you here for our weekly webinar this morning. We're talking about two new tools that we've been working on, and we're going to show you a quick preview. This may be a slightly shorter demonstration than we have had in the past, but we're happy to have you here. And it's not just me. I'm going to be announcing a couple other people who are going to be doing the demos here in a minute. But first, I want to just get a quick show of hands. How many people got our newsletter on Monday? If you did, please raise your hand, and that will give us just a quick idea of how many people are actually receiving those newsletters and attending these webinars. Thank you very much, Dean, Michael, Jania, Evan. It looks like you guys all got the newsletter. Just wanted to. This is kind of the same. These topics that we're talking about today are the same as what we mentioned in the newsletter. So if you did not receive our newsletter, please mention it in your feedback for the webinar, and we'll send you a link. Let's see. We have, of course, we have audio. So if you don't have audio, you'll have to look at the webinar after the fact on YouTube. And then, of course, you can't hear me saying that, so it's not really an issue. But we have a couple presentations today. We have two demos for you. One is the InfoPath Scanner, and this is a quick app. We'll describe it in a second, that you would install on SharePoint to basically dig into the cave of InfoPath Forms on your site. So if you don't know what's there, you can actually use this Scanner app, not to blow up your head. Nope, the Scanner app is there to help you scan your cave, your SharePoint site library, not your library, your site collection, and see all the stuff that you have there. And it can be used on multiple sites. And then after that, following that, we have the Qdabra Form services, which Hillary will be presenting. So we'll do a quick Q&A at the end, and if you have questions now on anything whatsoever, please don't hesitate to get those questions in, because it is first in, first out. Okay, so without any further ado, then I would like to introduce Jim Cantwell, and Jim is our senior developer, engineer, architect here. He does it all, and he has been working on this InfoPath Scanner tool we call the scanner. And what it's going to do is three things in particular, and he'll describe these in a second, but I just want to give him a quick shout out here. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to get installed on your site, of course, and then it's going to scan through and look for XSNs. Remember, XSN is the InfoPath form template on your site. And that's the format that it's in, is an XSN. So it scans to look for all these. It shows a list of them, and in the future, it will actually show all the dependent XML files. We're not going to show that today. And then if you click on the special Dig Deeper button, it will find those find more information out about your form, including things like data connections, how long your views are. And I'm going to give Jim the mic. Jim, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. Great to have you here. I'm going to make you a presenter so you can share your screen and do the quick demo. Okay, you should be presenter now.
So what I'm going to do is first just launch a Internet Explorer window, and this is our SharePoint online site, and this is where I have the scanner application installed. And I'll just quickly launch that. Now, this has initially does not populate, and all I have to do is click refresh, and it should give me, well, actually, I kind of laws of demos that something always goes wrong, so I've got the windows that I had opened up earlier, and I will sorry about that. And so this is a list of the site content types and the InfoPath libraries, or actually all the document libraries and lists that are defined on the site. And the site content types will have the information as far as where they're published to, in this case, the under the form server template. and if I do a scan, it will scan the ones that are selected. And I've already actually scanned these. This one, as the data connections are listed first, and if there's nothing listed there, that's there's no data connections defined in that form. Gives you the basic form properties and promoted properties and views. But since that one doesn't have that much content, I'll switch over to this one that has a good deal more data connections. Now there will be expanding on the types of data that can be retrieved and from the XSN. Since this is actually done by the web service that Hillary will, I believe, is going to be talking about, it is able to crack open the XSN and return all the information about the form properties, promoted properties. So we have the node path for the promoted properties. So basically we'll be adding additional details on the XSNs that can be used to either help determine if you've got dependencies on, say, data connections, especially it may be something that you're not aware of, what forms have dependencies on specific resources. So we'll be adding the URLs for the web services and the data connections. We don't have that currently in the view here. And as far as in the library drill down, these are the actual site content types are used. And with the item count, these are the item counts of the items in the library. And when we add the full functionality for the XML drill down, we'll basically be able to give you the list of all the content for XML files that are referencing those content types. And
that's great. Just for everyone, yeah. No, thank you. This is wonderful. So, and just for everyone that who's listening in, why would you want such a scanner app? Well, you may not know what you have on your SharePoint site. You may want to know, number one, who has been using InfoPath. You may want to know which InfoPath forms do I need to migrate, because sometimes when you migrate, those data connections will break. And there may be other questions you have about the nature of your InfoPath forms. And so the idea behind this tool is to give you, kind of a quick health check, a quick scan of your system to tell you who's doing what, where, and what the details are. So that's our first demo, and I'm going to quickly switch to my screen again. And Jim, thank you very much for that wonderful demo. And if you could actually hang out, we might have some questions here at the end. So next up we have Qdabra Form Services, and this is really kind of the plumbing behind part of what you just saw, the detailed analysis of those form templates. But also we're using it for a couple other things that Hillary will be talking about. You've got a form, you want to map data to a list. We've got a command in QRules. Some of you have QRules that will do it. We also have a command that allows you to upload documents or attachments. That's called the Save to SharePoint command. Well, both of those commands require QRules. And QRules, as you know, is a common library, has over 140 different commands in it. So it's very powerful. A lot of people use it to do all kinds of wonderful things with their InfoPath forms, make their InfoPath forms, extend them and make them even more powerful. Unfortunately, you can't use QRules if you're using Formotus, and we've just announced in our newsletter on Monday that we're now partners with Formotus, and we've been working with them for quite a while. We're now official, and we're really happy about that. So we're trying to extend solutions on their platform, and one of the ways we're going to do that is take some of those QRules features, those commands, and move them into a web service in the cloud. So I would like to introduce Hillary again. Hillary's been here before. Most of you already know her. Actually, everyone probably knows her. She's more popular than I am. Hillary?
Hey everybody, nice to talk to everyone. Let's see, it looks like I've made the presenter. Fantastic, that's what I was just going to ask for. Let me get organized here and figure out what I'm doing. There we go, show my screen. And this is the guy I went. So I'm going to go ahead and share out here and move some stuff around so that it's not quite so cluttery. All right, I think you guys can see what I've got to display. I am going to show you something incredibly boring to start with because you've seen us do this before again and again and again. And what I'm going to show you is I've got this little expense report here that I've already filled out. You can see it's opened up in the browser. It's a browser form. I've got some attachments here that I've added. I would like to add that I was simply appalled this morning when I discovered that there are websites out there that will let you generate fake receipts, I think for the purposes of defrauding your employer. So that was disturbing. But I did manage to find some pictures of receipts thanks to these sites that I could use for my dummy expense report. So I've got this button here. It's going to submit these list items over here to my currently empty expense list. I click my button. This is all very exciting. I'm sending data to the server. We'll know it's all done when we see that we've got some item IDs here. By the very high numbers you see, you can tell I've been experimenting a lot. And we go back to our expenses list. We refresh it. And here are, slowly, is anybody else disillusioned with the working on it thing? Here are my expenses. You can see that I've got attachments on them. So this is the same kind of thing that we've shown you before with Q rules. I think we've done it before with Camel and a web service. It's the same, how do I get my repeating stuff out of my form and into my list? And then the other thing that I'm going to show you that's equally, you guys have seen all of this kind of stuff before is I'm going to attach a file to this. Trust me, this is going to get interesting soon. I'm going to attach a file to this. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to say attach. And when I attach it, it's going to get not necessarily replaced with a link because I didn't add any logic to clear this field. But you can see I've got a link now to my file. It's in my shared documents. This little number right here is the item ID of the item that I just submitted. Let's just refresh these shared documents here. And now you should be able to see that I've got this new item right here in my shared documents. Okay, so you guys have seen us do this stuff before. We've done it with Q rules. We've done it in some cases with code, probably not in the webinar. But what is interesting is if we go and we look at the forms themselves. I'm not using Q rules for this. I'm using a new web service. And so I just had already primed this that's displaying 3 operations from this particular web service. We've got 2 services going on. One Jim showed you some stuff from in the demo. I'll show you a few more things from that. And the other one here, the InfoPath Utilities web service, has just a few little operations here. It's got an operation that will generate a GUID so that you can get a new GUID for your form. We'll talk a little bit more about that. It's got an operation that will do a save to SharePoint. So you populate a query field with the data from your file attachment or picture attachment, and it will save it to SharePoint, return you a link and the item ID of the item you've just created. And then we also have a submit to SharePoint list operation. This has to be called as a submit operation in your form. If you're using a browser form, it has to be UDCX'd, but as you can see, it executes in the browser without the bulk of code. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this guy out. I wanted to show you those because these, at this point in my form, have been made into UDCX connections. This is my submit connection that I'm using. This is a connection that is creating a GUID for me. That is so that I can also submit a GUID to the list and then later pull back my IDs. With Q rules, we have some options that we don't necessarily have with a web service, right? With Q rules, we're right there, we're in your form, and we can touch data in your form. With a web service, we don't have that option. So we're submitting these items via a web service. So there's my temp button. Nice, isn't it? That's what I'm testing locally, so you didn't see that in the previewed form. I forgot it was there. So if we go manage rules, here's what I've basically got. I've got got submit using a data connection, QFS submit. This data connection takes, and in fact, I'm glad I've got that test one. Let's take a look at what this data connection takes. Now this one is one that I've got set up to my local service, and it's going to fail because I don't have that service running right now. Let me just, yeah, I know you can't. That's okay. We're going to go ahead and enter a real URL here. Let me see if I can spell today. Let's see if this is right. I think we're going to double check it. QFS Proto CloudApp.net. It's Proto CloudApp.net. I think it's right. Let's click next and see what happens. So I had that pointed to my local service, which I don't have up and running right now. I did want to show you though what parameters this submit connection takes, and rather than try to walk through the UDCX again, I thought it would be simpler to do it here. I'll just take it another minute to load up. And then we'll take a quick look at the other one. Okay, so this takes two parameters. The first parameter is the data, and that's the entire form XML. We have to submit the whole form. And the second parameter that it takes is a URL to the XSN for the form. What the web service is doing is it's using that XSN URL to go grab the parent template. Okay, so you have provided that web service now with the entire XML structure of your filled out form, and you have provided the web service with the URL for your template. The web service is grabbing that template, it's going ahead, it's cracking it open, and what it's looking for is it's looking for a resource file called mapping XML. Same mapping file you've been using for your Q rules, submit to SharePoint list items. As long as it's named mapping XML, you don't even have to have a data connection for it in the form. The web service is just cracking open the template, grabbing that mapping XML, you've sent it the form XML, and we're mapping things off to the SharePoint list. So that is how that little piece of magic is working. The other form that I wanted to show you was the one with the Save to SharePoint in it. And this one has just the one data connection. This has also been turned into a UDCX because, of course, I was using it in the browser. And all I've got going on here is a few little rules. Okay, so I'm setting a field's value. I'm setting the data field in my query data connection here to the value of my file attachment, and then I'm executing the data connection. Now I've already got something that's setting, oh no, that's right, let me not lie to you. The library URL, by default, this web service is going to take that from the opened XML. So by default, that library URL is going to be I don't understand why I keep lying to you folks today. I've just confused myself. That was back on the XSN URL. This library URL is something I set when I set up the data connection, and that's the library that I want to save my document to. Sorry about that. So I set that up when I set up the data connection. It's what I want to send the file to. You could, of course, change that via rules if you wanted to. Data is just the base 64 that I would like to send off. What I'm returning is the list item ID, or the document library ID, and then the link to the file. So if we pop back over to here, since I've made this as confusing as possible, you can see that when my rule fired, what I did was I wrote this file off to my documents library, yeah, and then I returned here the link to it and the item ID. So again, very much similar to the current Q rules functionality. The big difference is that we're doing this all via web services, no code in the form. Q rules, as many of you know, has gotten bigger and bulkier as time has passed, and we've added more and more things to it. So this is an extremely lightweight way to get some of your data out of your form and where you need it without having to worry about code. And also, of course, it's going to be compliant with things like Formotus, where we have limitations on what all we can do with our forms. So I just want to show you real quick the web services themselves, and then I will hand things back to Patrick. So right now you can see this is the list of REST operations that we have available, and this includes things that Jim was using for his scanner app. And in fact, here is a call to the form information REST web service. I passed in a library URL for the form I wanted. I requested that it be returned in XML format. You can also get it back in JSON if you wish. It returns information on the data connections. It returns information on the form itself, what we're calling the form properties, things like trust settings and so forth. Information on the promoted properties, and information on all of the views. The other web service is the InfoPath Utilities service. Here's the WSDL right now. At this point, it's just got the submit to SharePoint list, save to SharePoint, and that generate GUID method, which when you call it, let me just show you that guy real quick. When you query it, there's no parameters, and it just returns a GUID for you. When you need a new GUID, there you've got it. So that's my little baby QFS web service and what it's doing so far. And I will go ahead and hand things back to Patrick.
Oh wow! Thank you so much, Hillary. You said it was bulky, but I think QRules is svelte. It's only 70K, isn't it? In terms of the size, I do think it is relatively svelte the way it is today. Well, but there are
It is. It is. But you know what I mean. I mean, it's grown over time as we've added to it. It's not like it's a monolith, but it's still it adds some impact. It adds some size. Right. So anybody who can't use QRules in their forms, this is our new option. Now it is going to take us a few more weeks here to actually get this out for you, get you an install pack that you can use to install this. Now, as you saw, we have this running in the cloud. We're actually running this on Azure, and so we're going to be putting this together a package. We're also going to be adding things like a PDF service so you can generate PDF forms, and we're really excited about this. So we have this present for you for Christmas coming. It will be totally betaware. You will be able to use it with some help from us, but we're looking for beta testers, and anyone who tests our beta stuff will get it for free. That means that you will never have to pay us anything. We're not going to give you free support infinitely, but we will support you for the first few months. And of course, our plan is to go out with a live version of this in March. We will be providing both the installable ones, the Azure installable clients you can install on your Azure site, and we'll have a public one that people can just call. And we don't have any idea of what we're going to do in terms of pricing for the public one yet, but right now the assumption is that it will be free for quite a while, if not for a long time. So people have questions. If you have questions on things, anything whatsoever, please get your questions in and we'll answer them. You can ask a question on something you didn't see. Today's topic obviously was a little bit different than what we typically do. Typically we walk through and give you pointers on how to do things in InfoPath. Today we're really talking about a couple new web services, a couple new apps that we're actually one app and one web service that we're going to be making available in the next month or so to beta customers. And the idea behind these is added functionality for your InfoPath lifestyle. Now, today we have an offer. Every week we have an offer, right? So today's offer is training, and we're doing a training class in 2 weeks, starting November 12th. And we do provide all content for you, including free tools. You get a free version of QRules and Deep Excel. It's a huge value. We give you post-class follow-up and free chocolate. And this is all for the regular price of about $1,000, about $1,100. If you register today, we'll give you our maximum discount, and we'll throw in a free detailing service. So if you've got an InfoPath form, normally we charge about $300 to give you a detailed analysis. We'll do it for free if you come to the class on 11/11 or 11/12. November 12th is the date. If you're interested in this, feel free to register on our website. It's just go to Qdabra.com, and it's the training link. And then we would just say you heard about it in the class or in the webinar, and we'll honor that discount. And we would love to have you. We have booked the class out, so we definitely will be doing it. And we're just looking for a few more people to participate. So we do have we have any questions whatsoever? Looks like we have a relatively captive audience this morning. We'll give it another 10, 20 seconds here. If you've got a question, there should be a way via the GoToMeeting tool to ask a question. And while you were waiting for other people's questions, I think I'll ask a few questions here. Two questions, one for Jim, one for Hillary. So Jim, I noticed on your demo that you have different areas when you do the scanning. You've got content types, libraries, and lists.
how are you identifying, how do you tell whether an InfoPath form is a list versus a library versus a content type?
The calls to the SharePoint site are using the SharePoint object model, and so it's able to identify all the details on the list. It does require that you have permission to that list, but if you have permission, like if you're a site collection admin, you'll have permission to query all the details that SharePoint has on that object.
Great. So that's site collection admin, is that right?
Well, you don't have to be a site collection admin, but you may only have permission to specific libraries, but if you have permission to those, then you'll be able to get the detail on those.
I see. That's great. Okay, so folks, anyone installing the app, so long as you have permission on the libraries you're searching, I guess that will work. Is that correct?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, next question for Hillary. So Hillary, let's see, what am I going to ask you? Actually, we do have another question here, but I was going to ask you, how are you doing authentication? How do you know? I mean, if you're mapping from the form to the web service to the site, how are we making sure that we're allowing people to do it based on their credentials?
That's a piece that's still in progress. We haven't got that completed yet in the prototype.
Sorry for that question. I should know better, shouldn't I?
Well, we've talked about it, yeah.
I was just curious. Okay, a couple questions from Shane Harvey. Thank you, Shane, for asking a question while we were making up questions. Is the advanced training online or in person? Yes, this is a great question. So this class on 11/12, that's November 12th, 10 days from now or so, is going to be online. And so we're going to be doing it over the web. We do have a ton of new content. I know that you took the class a couple of years ago. I think you did. But for those of you who have taken the class before, we do have lots of new content for you, lots of new labs. We've improved things, and we do have still a wealth of content there for you to improve your InfoPath skills. And we have lots of samples, lots of takeaways, and of course you get everything. So all that course content, those videos, we'll tape the online. If you can't go every day, it's only 5 hours a day. So if you can't go every day, we will tape all the demos and the presentations, and we look forward to having you. Gail's got a question to you, Hillary. Do you always use UDCX connections for your browser forms? Hillary, did you want to answer that, or do you want me to do it?
I'm sorry, I thought I was unmuted. In this case, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so in this case, my form is on Office 365, and my web service is located in Azure, and so yes, for my browser form, I do need to use UDCX in order to make that that cross-domain connection.
Would that be required for people who do not have 365, who are just using it internally, they want to install the web service internally?
Well, if we have the web service available to install locally, then I wouldn't imagine that there would be a cross-domain issue and that UDCX would then not be required.
Cool. Hope that answers your question, Gail. So it is our intent to add not just the methods you saw today, but also, like I said, the PDF generation, and to allow you to do mapping to your databases in Azure at some point in the future. A lot of work we're doing, so we're not exactly sure how much we'll have done by the first week in December, but we do look forward to serving you this stuff. And if you're a beta tester, you'll get all the updates. So we'll be updating it pretty much once a month or so, starting with the first release in December. So there's another last question from Mark. What kind of chocolate will be presented at the class? Could be a deal breaker. I totally agree. We have, in Seattle, we have Theo's chocolate. It's one of the finest chocolates, artisanal chocolates here made in the Northwest. And we will be providing Theo's chocolate along with Zoka's coffee for anybody who signs up. We'll send you a packet with a Qdabra t-shirt. You'll have it all. So just sign up now, go to our website, click on training, register, and we will be happy to have you in the class, and we will send you those goodies in time for you to partake of them while you're listening and watching our demos and doing the labs in the class. So don't procrastinate. Sign up today, and love to have you in that class. We do have a limit, fixed size limit of 10 people in the class, and we have, I think, about 4 or 5 people registered, so there only are a few slots left. So it's first come, first serve. Would love to have you in the class. And thank you very much for being here in the webinar today. We look forward to presenting next week. Next week's topic, I forgot what it is already, but we will be sending out an email on Monday morning to let you know what that is. Thanks again for being here, and we look forward to serving you in the future.